going on, everybody? It is the Wrestling Mat live in Montreal for one more day. Yes, what's going on, everybody? Still on vacation. Matt Camp here. It is the Wrestling Mat for this Wednesday morning. Thanks for being with us for another special start time of 10 a.m. Eastern, which, of course, you would have known about if you're already subscribed to the WrestlingMatShow.com. You know where to do it. Usually it's right under Todd. It'll be under me here in a second, though. The WrestlingMatShow.com is where you need to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. And we thank so many of you. There it is, right there. Todd will be back, I think, tomorrow. Right underneath Todd tomorrow. But the WrestlingMatShow.com. Subscribe, like, comment. I answered a bunch of comments last night. If you left any, they have been answered by me in some way, shape, or form. And turn on those notifications because thanks to you, we now can produce all the bonus content and extra features we want to use. They're all available to us. We got there way faster than we expected to, and we want to thank all of you for that. In less than a month, we were able to make all of that happen. So thanks to all of you. Now, because of that, I told you the first episode of our bonus content would be dropping this week. And guess what? I'll give you the time. Because this Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we will be dropping the episode of myself and Chef Reactions. He's right here. This is his shirt. This is Chef Reactions right here. He has his own merch, and he will be with us here on the Wrestling Mat because it'll be the first bonus piece of content dropping for you this Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Myself and Chef Reactions watching the first Nitro. We'll tell you all about how you can watch with us, but I will tell you, it's Season 1, Episode 1 of WCW Monday Nitro on Peacock. That's how you'll be watching along with us. It's about an hour long. Now, the reason that is dropping at 1 p.m. Eastern is because this show, starting next Monday, will be now airing every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Starting next week, promise you that. With all the new features we're going to be throwing in here, you'll be able to do super chats. We're going to be talking about subscriptions soon, so you can be part of tape shows that don't air live. Hello, Phil. Morning to you. Hope you are doing well as well. But that's because you guys made that happen. So we did have that poll up there yesterday. Where would you like to see the show come to you? You said the afternoon. We're going to move it up to the afternoon. Half of you said you'd like this to be an afternoon show. And the good part is, if you ever miss any of it, if you can't be with us live, everything is right there for you at the WrestlingMatShow.com. So you won't miss a thing. Our shorts have been blowing up as of late. Really proud of our team behind the scenes for making that happen. Any live episode. Yesterday we talked all about Monday Night Raw and the Wyatt Six and Chad Gable. The return of Seth Rollins, that is up, and we segment out a lot of the discussions that we have on this very show and put them all over there at the WrestlingMatShow.com. So past live episodes, segments, shorts, and more coming your way, including this Friday when Chef Reactions and I watch the first episode of WCW Monday Nitro from the Mall of America. It is a fantastic piece of wrestling history with a lot of fun in it. There's a Sting Flair match in there. You got Lex Luger showing up on that show. It's quite a show. So we're going to be watching that with you on Friday. I will be back with you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, but starting on Monday, this is one of the official announcements. This show will be coming to you at 1 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, in addition to more bonus content that, because of you guys, will be coming your way on a regular basis. So we thank you for that. We grew faster than we expected, and we thank you for that. Merchandise, Wrestling Mat merch is coming soon. Obviously, thinking shirts and hoodies and hats or whatever, but what would you like? What kind of Wrestling Mat merch would you like? Please let us know. Talk to us in our community section. I'll be posting there in the next day. Talk a little bit more about what's going on in the channel. But make sure you also follow us on social media at WrestlingMat23 because that is where you'll get announcements about who's coming on the show, some plans for the show, anything like that, any promotion for the show. I post on there. We're going to be doing more Q&A soon right here on the Wrestling Mat, and that is certainly a part of the bonus coverage. So stuff I don't hit. I like to take your questions, but if there's things that we're not talking about and you have questions for me, We're going to get to those right here at the Wrestling Mat. So the first 1 p.m. episode is this Friday with myself and Chef Reactions reacting to the first Nitro. Watching that, you can watch along with us. But starting on Monday and every weekday going forward, this show will be moving to 1 p.m. Eastern, and you won't miss a thing. I'll be able to react earlier to all the news that came from the night before, whatever shows it may be. And yeah, if you can't catch the show live, you can always catch previous episodes. You can watch on demand anything you want at thewrestlingmatshow.com. Please follow us on social media at WrestlingMat23. Let's talk about NXT last night. And I'm not going to go through a full review, but I wanted to talk about what was promoted and then how that was presented. Because last week, Trick Williams was in the ring with Cody Rhodes, looking 5 inches taller because of those damn good-looking white boots. And Cody says, I got the okay to say this from Ava, the GM. There will be a 25-man battle royal next week to determine the next number one contender for your title, Trick, and the NXT Championship. And he said, it'll be more than one locker room or multiple locker rooms or whatever he said. So, obviously, with everything going on with TNA, easy to jump to the conclusion. I even mentioned, though, last week that could also mean Raw and SmackDown talent come down and are part of the Battle Royal. And that happened. Angel was in it and Apollo Crews was in it, but not much. People you could easily eliminate just to kind of fill out the Battle Royal. But the NXT social media teased Frankie Kazarian and showed him talking to Shawn Michaels. I said, okay, that's a fine tease. That's a TNA. I don't want to say TNA lifer because he worked Ring of Honor and he worked New Japan and he was in AEW, but certainly somebody who I think if you asked about Frankie Kazarian's career, he'd be most closely connected to TNA, and he's calling himself the king of TNA, and that's fine. So he's in it. All right. I was like, okay, that's one. And then the ring is filled, and Joe Hendry gets to make his full entrance. He gets to cut a promo. There he is. They said his name so many times that he did indeed appear. And that, by the way, is not a graphic. I mean, it's a picture, obviously, but that is exactly how Hendry came out. He found the camera shot. He looked right down the barrel of that camera, and it looked good. And he cut his promo, as he does. And he talks about, because he's full of bravado. If you had not seen Joe Hendry in action or his shtick or his gimmick before last night, that's kind of what he is. He's like this pop star sensation. He's done parody songs for the longest time, going back even before TNA days when he was in ICW in Scotland, and when he was in What Culture Pro Wrestling, and this was his thing. And TNA's had him for a couple of years, and he's been feuding with various people, and he's doing stuff with AJ Francis, but he makes parody songs, and they're very funny. There's a great one with Drew McIntyre. I told you guys to look that up the other day. So he comes out, and he cuts his promo, and there's 24 since, Cody Rhodes said there'd be 25 men in this Battle Royal last week, and I'm telling you there's 24 wrestlers and one sensation, and that's me, and I'm going to win the title and take it back to TNA. And it was full of bravado, and he's smiling, and, that's Joe. Joe was a promo first. So he gets in the ring, and he right after he talks, Ethan Page comes out, and he gets the big final entrance, because they're not going to show entrances for everybody. They put Kazarian's thing up there on social media that he came out. But after Ethan Page comes out, you realize TNA represented by Joe Hendry and Frankie Kazarian and absolutely nobody else. So, sure, the most popular guy being Joe Hendry covers up for that a bit, but the fact that it was nobody else in that Battle Royal, not exactly strongly sell a 25-man. It wasn't a 10-man it was 25. You couldn't get 5 TNA guys in that Battle Royal? John Evans won it. That was, what were they really going to do? You couldn't have put 5 TNA guys in there to get eliminated late? Kazarian lasted late. Now, Joe Hendry gets in there, And there was the end of it. But Joe Hendry got in there and got eliminated immediately. And by Kazarian, which I guess will leak back into, them feuding in TNA more. But he got to cup, you got this big baby face pop and entrance and all that. And I realize he's full of himself. So there's a little bit of a heel in Joe Hendry in that way. But then they dump him. They immediately dump him. And he comes back to the curtain. They put it on social media. And he's yelling at Shawn Michaels, "Oh, did you tell all of them to do that? And I could show up anywhere I want." And he walks away. And Shawn Michaels goes, "I believe." And they showed him later on, with Wesley and the North American title and all that stuff and him getting another title shot. But part of me was like, okay, because he got the big entrance and a promo and the other one to get a promo, and then he got eliminated as fast as he did, it was still putting a lot of spotlight on him. I just wonder, for those who hadn't seen him before, how does that alter the perception? You go, "This guy's a loser. He's just a comedy act." Or does it put enough spotlight on him that you'll want to see him again? He got a call and response from fans that aren't of TNA. He got a call. He did his stuff, and they knew it, which is very telling. I don't think you give Joe Hendry an entrance and a promo and a little thing with Shawn Michaels and say that's it. That'd be my guess. But I also believe that if he was not in that Battle Royal, and you did have 10 other TNA guys, people would have been pissed off. Because he is that over, and his stuff is engaging, and he took a billboard out outside of the Hydro in Scotland over the weekend just so his face would show up. Like, he gets it. He gets how to promote himself. No one's going to talk about these unbelievable Joe Hendry matches, which is fine. What's up, Captain Wiener? How are you this morning? Way to come in hot. But I think there's more to Joe Hendry. It's also a matter of how much does this relationship need Joe Hendry. We'll talk more about that coming up. So Ethan Page has the face-off of Joe Hendry, and then Joe Hendry gets eliminated, and then Oro Mensah comes out, who's not in the Battle Royal, and him and Ethan go through the ropes, and that's it. Ethan's done. Javon Evans gets rid of Spears to win, so he gets some retribution for Spears beating him last week in the main event. Later on, Ethan Page complains to Ava that Mensah has now attacked him 4 times, should be kicked out of the company, and blah, 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 and I never got eliminated, which is true. Then Evans is there, and let's do it again. Okay, we do it again. So the main event becomes Ethan Page against Javon Evans. And Javon Evans is already the number 1 contender because he won the Battle Royal, and Trick's out on commentary, and Ethan Page beats him. And then Ethan comes out and is jaw-jacking with Trick. And then Spears is back out because he's mad about what happened in the Battle Royal, but also that he beat Evans last week, so he's beating him up. And Trick goes in the save, and then Page goes in, and then it's all 4 of them. And the title is like in a weird spot, and Javon Evans gets it into the middle of the ring because they clearly had rehearsed this overhead shot of each of them in a corner down because they all beat each other up with the title in the middle because it's, that's cinema, guys. No, it's just forced symbolism. They put they took that very forced shot of the 4 of them. So I'm going to guess that we get Ethan Page, Javon Evans, Shawn Spears, and Trick Williams in a 4-way for the NXT Championship at Heatwave. Here's what I don't like about this. Javon Evans wins and is one of the fastest rising talent, if the most he's the fastest rising talent in NXT, other than, I guess, Ethan Page. And you beat him last week, Shawn Spears. And then you have him win a Battle Royal, and then you beat him again. So in between, the Battle Royal victory, sandwiched around that is 2 losses. In the span of a week, by the way. So your number 1 contender's got 2 losses. So I guess that'll be, well, that's why it's a justified shot that they also get their opportunity at Trick Williams. Not the way to do it, though. You know, I lay out Trick was something else, but very forced shot to end the show. Not the way to present Javon Evans. I just don't get that. If you want to do that 4-way, figure out do a multiple eliminations at the same time or something in the Battle Royal. Don't beat them twice in a week and have them also win. I don't want my number one contender to be 1-2 in the span of 2 weeks or 1 week. He's lost his last 2 singles matches. That's how we want to present a number one contender? It was just very forced. I know Heat Wave's not a huge show, but it's big enough. It didn't come off very well to me. And I thought it was forced booking. There's another way to get to a 4-way. Then don't announce a Battle Royal. Have qualifiers for the 3 spots. It's not like you loaded up the Battle Royal with all these TNA people that you needed them. You had 2 in there. You had a smattering of low-card Raw and SmackDown guys. Tyler Bate and Apollo Crews and Angel. Do qualifiers. Say it's 4 spots. I don't think it was the right way to present Javon Evans. So now I ask this question, because the rest of the show is very eh. And by the way, that crowd was dead. Go watch that Fallon Henley match. They are on, and I like her, they are on their hands. That was a very dead crowd after the Battle Royal, and after, honestly, I think Joe Hendry going out early and quickly, that kind of killed it. They like Javon Evans, and that's good. He's over. But there's not a lot of people that are super over right now in NXT. So I asked the question, and I brought this up. How much does NXT need help? Yeah, they signed Ethan Page, so that's a sign. He's there. But they shot him right up into the main event. And Jordan Grace looked every bit the part. She's gone now. And Roxanne and Lola, I guess, is going to be something, even though I don't know what the dynamic is supposed to be. They seemed like baby faces clearing the ring last week. Then they win the tag, but they were, against each other. And Lola said beforehand, we're not friends. And they raised hands, and Roxanne hit that awful back fist. So then if this isn't like corrected today, like this is what happened. So this back fist, and it like hits her low, which I get. It wasn't a clean shot. So what? That's mistake number 1 by Roxanne. But she's down, Lola, and Lola's like half selling. And she's like, but like on her face, she looks as angry as can be, and she's looking up at Roxanne like that. And she's not really selling. She just kind of has her hand across her chest. I know it wasn't a great clean shot, but it had like no effect on her. So you got to figure out that, and that to me is a lack of experience there. Yeah, she probably should have got hit in the face. That was the idea, but Roxanne hit her lower, and she barely sold it and was yelling the whole time at her. She didn't correct herself in the moment. She should have been doubled over in pain, but her facial expression didn't look like she got hit at all. And that match doesn't feel that big. I get that she beat Shayna Baszler in NXT Underground, but it seems like NXT needs these boosts. They needed the boost, I think, to get on CW. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that. I'm not saying that bigger name talent shouldn't cycle through there. And, you're not always going to get Becky Lynch. You're not always going to get Seth Rollins. But it seems very, necessary that they have that. And I believe that ratings bump they got at the end of last year is what got them the CW deal. And sure, they're going to get paid again, and even more so, to broadcast their developmental. But that's exactly what it is. It's still their developmental. But how is it viewed? Well, Are they more worried about developing talent, or are they more worried about ratings? Are they worried about the numbers that can be brought in, the money that can be made? Will that stifle how development actually happens? There were rumors that maybe WWE would buy TNA. I don't think that's happening, at least not anytime soon. I would like to see some usage of the TNA library in WWE. But this calls into the bigger picture of what's going on with WWE and outside companies. AJ Styles and Marufuji are going to wrestle for Noah, which for those who don't know is a Japanese promotion, not as big as New Japan. And there's the match. Now, this is happening on Destination. Now, you'll see at the bottom there, Abema. Abema distributes WWE in Japan. And supposedly they may have been involved in this deal. And I thought that was very interesting, that a Japanese streaming television provider, whatever you want to call them, like their name's on it. So there is some interesting synergy there. Now, this also goes back to the Great Muta getting inducted to the Hall of Fame. Because to me, that was really the start of this. And I don't think that's been brought up a lot. And he's been doing promotion. They've had some special events with Abema and WWE. And, he's kind of spoken on those social outlets about that. So this seems like it's been in the works for quite some time. And what was that years ago, there was that famous graphic of Hunter standing in front of the world. And it was the global localization. And that's what they were going to do in NXT UK. And they're looking about that in Japan. They were looking at that in, Mexico. And they got away from it with like NXT 2.0. Now they seem to be getting back to it. And I wonder if, that was a Triple H idea. Let's have, I think, NXT brands. Still waiting on NXT Europe, by the way. It was supposed to start like 5 months ago, wasn't it? But I think it was supposed to have these like NXT developmental brands in Europe, and Japan, and Mexico, and Canada, wherever. But we're still waiting for NXT Europe when they shut down NXT UK. They have a performance center in the UK. But it seems like they've gotten back to that. And I do think that there is some synergy there within the company, at least in terms of a thought process of look at the international shows that they have run from Puerto Rico. Saudi's a different category, but, Berlin this year, just coming off of Scotland. Not as international, but Toronto, they're going to go to these places. They want to have footprints in these places. They see what the crowds are like in these places. And I'm sure WWE's going, well, there's dollar signs there. We see the dollar signs. How do we get there more often? How do we find ways to keep our footprint there when we're not there? It's things like this. So on July 13th, not one, but two WWE talents will be wrestling for promotions outside of WWE. Just saw the graphic. AJ and Marufuji, special singles match July 13th. Abema presents Noah Destination. That's a big show for them. Also, on July 13th, on a different show, the new all-women's promotion, Marigold, has a show called Summer Destiny. Io Sky is wrestling on that show. She had a taped promo that was played at a recent Marigold show. And she's going to wrestle Utami Hayashishita, who is fantastic. Was dominant in Stardom. Another all, that's Stardom, for those that don't know, is the biggest all-female promotion in Japan. And they have a few of those. They run them separately. The New Japan banner and their company, their parent company owns Stardom. So New Japan and Stardom are under the same umbrella. And former owner of Stardom, the man who used to run it, I should say, Rossi, who has a questionable reputation, I guess you would say. Left there. They terminate him because he wanted to start this promotion, and he is very much, I guess you would say, involved in the connection with WWE. Julia, who's a hot signing, who will be coming to NXT soon as part of this Marigold promotion. We're going to see her soon. I think the idea was she was going to be at Heat Wave. She did get injured recently. We'll see if she actually shows up on the show. But there are clearly now tentacles of WWE in Japan between Marigold and Noah. Now, you can look at this in a couple ways. The positive from the wrestler standpoint is there's places to go work. Now, for AJ Styles, he has a great name in Japan. After TNA, Japan, Bullet Club, world champ there, he was the man, which raised his profile to the point that weeks after he faced Shinsuke Nakamura at what is New Japan's biggest show, Wrestle Kingdom, he would debut in the Royal Rumble a few weeks later. And obviously Shinsuke and Anderson and Gallows would follow. And Anderson and Gallows are supposed to be with AJ at that Noah show. So AJ's excited to go over there. You know, Charlie Dempsey worked for All Japan, which used to be a much bigger promotion. It's not as big as it used to be. But he was over there wrestling for their big championship a couple of months ago. So it's not at the New Japan level, because obviously New Japan has the relationship with AEW. But it seems like the other promotions are in play for WWE. And Noah and Marigold, you know, and you wrestlers have brought this up when the TNA thing started. I'd love to go work there. I'd love to go back there. Chelsea Green, Drew McIntyre, Meechin, all former TNA champions at some point. We'd like to go back. Some have noted, hey, I'd like to go work in Marigold. Okay. So there's excitement there. Maybe you could say, like I said with the TNA relationship, people who need more experience can go work there. Or go work, you know, can go work in these other places. Can get out of their comfort zone. That's a good thing. What I wonder, though, and I've thought this for probably the last year or so, when I was in WWE, I think it got to the point where I realized that the real developmental or another legitimate arm, whether it won't be acknowledged, of WWE's developmental and the future is other companies. Whether it be some of the situations we see now where there's a clear working relationship. Like, does anyone think that Jordynne Grace will be in TNA when her contract's up, which might be 6 months or so? She's going to get signed. She should be signed. And that could be the case for other people in TNA. But I also think that's going to be the case for any big wrestler who has name value, who has value at all, regardless of where they work. If WWE wants someone, they will be able to outbid anybody else to go get them. And obviously, the cons have money. Jacksonville cons, not Nick. And they can match. But I think that WWE might just look at the rest of everything in wrestling where they can pick from. If Ricky Starks were to become available and WWE wants him, they can go get him. I'm not saying everybody who comes up on a contract will want to go to WWE, but I think it looks a lot more attractive now than it did maybe 2 years ago. With no Vince, with a massive deal that created TKO, the inroads that Endeavor can provide. To me, that's why Jade Cargill's in WWE. Because it's the biggest company in the world and it's bigger than ever. And if they want somebody, they'll go get them. Ethan Page leaves AEW. If you believe that he had time left on his contract or not, WWE got him. If some of these other deals in AEW are coming up, or TNA, and they really want people, and they show that they have value, especially immediate value, they'll go sign them. WWE can look at that entire AEW roster and go, well, when he's up or when she's up, we'd love to have them. We can go get them. I think that's how WWE looks at everything. Now, that's probably, when NXT UK happened, WWE really basically took over what was a blossoming UK scene. They kind of killed it. It hasn't been the same since. People got deals. People got better deals than others, but it took them away. And then, there was that time when they could do both. WWE is always going to get first priority. But that kind of slowly took the buzz away from that UK scene. Ospreay went to Japan. He was still wrestling in the UK, but a lot of people signed. And NXT UK became, the best of the UK indies and the Europe indies. I don't think that was good for NXT UK. WWE got something out of it. They didn't get a ton out of it, admittedly, but they got something out of it. And I think they can look at every other company in the world right now and go, well, if we want them, we'll get them. We may have to wait, but we'll go get them. And if it's a significantly smaller company, like a Noah or a Marigold, then we can work out deals. And I think there's way more to AJ Styles wrestling in Noah next month and EO wrestling in Marigold next month. I think there's more coming in relation to that. Developmental may be under one roof in Orlando, but it reaches out much further than that. And we'll see how these situations continue to play out over the coming months. But I think it is very telling that NXT has needed the shot in the arm from people that weren't in the company a month ago. And how that leads into the CW deal come October. Now we got Dynamite coming up. They announced some Owen matches. Some that have, we're going to see Claudio and Pac. Claudio hadn't really announced for the Owen. We're going to see Nyla Rose and Chris Statlander. Kind of telling when people don't announce versus those who do announce. Like, I think where those matches are going. I thought it would start a little later, but they're starting it now, and that's okay. So we'll talk all about Dynamite tomorrow. I'll talk more about our 1 p.m. start time, which will officially begin on Monday and going forward every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow will be another 10 a.m. Eastern start time. We'll do a full Dynamite review, talk more about the news that's going on. But on Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, myself and Chef Reactions, the first bonus episode drops of us reacting to the first Nitro, September 1995, Mall of America. 1 o'clock this Friday. That will be what's coming your way. Make sure you subscribe at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Plenty more perks coming your way. We'll be doing the super chats, the Q&A, some subscription stuff. So only subscribers to that will get a little bit more, but we appreciate anybody who subscribes on the free tier to our channel, thewrestlingmatchshow.com. I promise you'll get all of this as well. Just some people might get a little ahead of time. But we'll announce more of those perks and those tiers coming up in the near future, as well as our merch. What merch would you like? Please let us know. Make sure you follow us on social media, WrestlingMatt23 on Twitter and Instagram. You won't miss announcements. You won't miss anything about the show. And make sure you are subscribed to thewrestlingmatchshow.com, to the shorts for the full past episodes of this very program, our segments. It is all there. Please share, like, and comment. You won't miss a thing. And yes, because you voted in the poll, more than 50% of you said afternoon. You're going to get that starting on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. But I'll be back with you. One more special start time tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Full Dynamite review. Please hit us up with your questions and comments in our community page. I'll be posting there in the next day or so to talk a little bit more about what we have coming up. But that will be it. So, thanks to everybody who joined us in the special start time at 10 a.m. Eastern. Back with you one more of these tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. And then we move to one going forward. So, with that, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about wrestling even more. See you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Wrestling Mat.